I'm so excited to have Yoshio Hama here with me today. Yoshio, how are you feeling?
I'm okay. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a great pleasure. And thank you so much for, help the yoga community to get inspired with the practice.
Oh, thank you, Yoshio. I'm really excited to have this chance because I just really respect when practitioners and teachers like you are dedicated and stay with yoga for a long time. Can you tell me a little bit about how your yoga practice is feeling today or these days lately?
Yeah, as a father, as you know, we encounter a lot of challenges. If I just look back a little bit, 20 something years ago, it was very easy because you have a lot of time. And
Yes.
you can take two classes and relax and do your own practice in the morning and then not get bothered with a lot of responsibilities and little ones looking for, mommy and daddy. And now, even though if I probably sometimes I may get interrupted, I try to keep that fire. And quite often I talk with the students about tapas. This is one of my favorites. That, I always think about keep the inner fire lit, that fire to put you into work. And, sometimes can be more intense, sometimes a little less intense, but it's there. The fire never stops. And that's what make you wake up because what I felt when you have more responsibilities, you have to do the practice when everyone is sleeping.
Yes, I agree. What
And
time do
then
what time do you wake up in the morning typically?
well, that depends, because it depends of the routine with family and work. But
Yeah.
ideally, I liked, the traditional way of get up at 4, Brahma time in between 4 and 6, and at least get done the most important household practice, which is pranayama and kriyas.
Yes,
See, and
yes,
then keep the mind poof in a good place. And
yes.
then the asana, anyways, we teach asana, I would say better than teach, I try to instruct people how to perform asana
Yeah.
and share some tricks. And then somehow you can get it done and sneaking in the asana practice somewhere. See? But definitely to keep the mind in a good place, at least now, because you asked me about now,
Yeah.
pranayama and kriyas is the foundation.
Nice. Do you feel like you've had like role reversal switch from did you have in the beginning fascination with asana that evolved into appreciation and now fascination with pranayama and kriya? Because that seems to be a very typical evolution, or do you feel like right away you had introduction to solid teaching in pranayama and kriya and that caught your attention? What was your evolution in relation to your introduction to yoga?
You know, like most of us, at least in the West, we get into yoga because of the asanas. And I was suffering a lot from my back because I have a severe rotoscoliosis, 3 years having getting better, but I couldn't sleep. And I was somehow working a lot on the art school because I was studying sculpting.
Cool.
And then I have a friend, we do ceramics together, and then I always complain about my back, and he said, "No, you should come to stretching." He didn't even know it was yoga. Me neither. And then I was doing martial arts, punching, kicking, push-ups, abs, but never stretch.
Yeah.
And then somehow when I went to that yoga practice that was designed for dancers, like it was a realization. I want to do this my entire life. I feel so good. Even if I was very challenged, I couldn't do, I would say 75% of the exercises. I was sweating, breathing, I didn't know anything.
Yes.
It was completely different approach of the body language than martial arts. But the mental aspect, I got very capped. And then I realized, okay, I need to improve my breathing. And then so I started to see it because the instructor that was leading the class, she always called my attention to the breath. So I started to see it and then understand Ujjayi breathing, just Ujjayi breathing itself for years. Just see it and then try to stay there for at least half an hour.
Mm.
And then, I my back was bowed, so I'd have to put a block. My knees was very stiff, and then try to find a way to, you know, sit still, right? With the
Yes.
wall. So create a memory. And that I think create a fascination because the idea to get up early and do the breath as first thing in the morning, it put my mind in a different frequency.
Yeah.
And then combine this knowledge into the asana practice. So my asana started to evolve into a very different place, faster than I imagined, even if I was just 22 and now I'm 50,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So, and it was very interesting. I would say back to the question that my fascination, yes, it was the feeling in the first place, like, wow, I feel my body, like someone crack my body and poof, I realign my skeleton, my muscles get stretched, the ligaments, everything went back into position. But then the idea of the breath that tune the mind and the body into a good place to work together. That even though in the martial arts, sometimes I was doing things by momentum.
Yeah.
And even I would say like it took a long time to realize it. Nowadays, I think that was a great inspiration. The breath working itself, the experience with the asana, and then put this together and
Mm.
create like a symphony, a melody, like in music, you know because I love drumming. I have been drumming also a lot in my life for dancers with different groups of music. And then rhythm alone, it's good, but when you put melodies, and tune and put everyone into a frequency, so then it creates something greater
Oh
that
man.
can change emotions, state of consciousness. And same happened with the breath. The breath and the poses, when you start to hold it for a long period of time, a specific sound on your breath or a specific gesture with your body, then poof, you create another state of consciousness. And that's what I like Dharma. When I met Dharma, he was pushing so hard this idea of compassion, which start from yourself, not hurting yourself, because we tend to push, I want to get this done, and then poof, you injure yourself, right? And
Yes.
martial arts is very common. You
Yeah.
fight and the adrenaline, and then you end up, I end up with a hand broke for 6 months, knees broke,
Yes.
same in
Yes.
dancing.
Yeah.
This so somehow I think, we start to create this feeling, and then Dharma, when he was approaching this concept, be compassionate to yourself, and then learn to be compassionate with others, and saying, hold the poses longer.
Mm.
And then you open another gate, another door of a different state of consciousness
Yes. Yeah.
that I experienced a little bit before Dharma, practicing Iyengar with a great teacher in Venezuela too. She went to Pune, and then we was doing basically in an hour and a half, three poses.
Mm. Wow.
But at that time,
Challenging. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but we use the chairs, the
Yeah.
block,
Yeah. Yeah.
make a nice bed with the blanket. So it
Yeah.
was pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
So 5 minutes, it was like, okay, I can handle it.
Yes.
The tricky thing that I like about her, it was that then we came out of the props and then tried to find the same comfy place without the prop.
Mm.
And that's when the work started.
Yes.
Because a lot of people just lying on the prop, and yes, it's very comfortable. You maybe have to do 50% of the effort or even less. But what about when you don't have the prop and the sense of attachment to the prop? And so this also was interesting. And then again, going back to the point with Dharma, holding the poses longer. And then, wow, you have to really focus and concentrate, and the body's shaking. There is no props. And then you are doing something very complicated. Even if you have the talent, you start to shake and the mind start to go back and forth.
Yes.
So I think the breath is the only way that bring you back, boom, to the eternal present.
Well, that's really cool, Yoshio. And it sounds to me like you were like discovering pranayama through necessity in the respect that you were talking about how you could feel like, oh my gosh, I'm sweating and I'm struggling. And maybe it was even a more beginning style practice. And but that then it dawned upon you, okay, if I could control or regulate my breath, I'll be able to get my heart to slow down and physiologically and mentally feel a little bit more calm. What happened when you started to interact with a traditional, if I use that word, traditional pranayama practice? Did that open up some realizations?
Yeah, I was lucky then, to get involved with some books because I would say maybe in most of the practices in Caracas when I started, we didn't really practice pranayama in a deeper level. So you have to figure out it on your own. And one of the friends that he was also a teacher, he handed to me the first yoga book, Yoga and Yogism. And he was the Sublime Maestre, and he apparently was established in Venezuela for a little bit. And that book talks about Noli Kriya, Udiyana Bandha, Nardi Shodhana, Bhashika, Kapalabhati, like many of the books. And then that was fascinating to read and then try to figure out the way and ask, once when the chance was happening, to the other instructors and see how the pranayama practice can evolve. But going back to the beginning, I was really focused on Ujjayi because I found like Ujjayi was a great skill to keep my mind focused just with a simple exercise because I didn't have too much guidance. See? And then
Hmm.
also the sound regarding to frequency to vibration, the sound. I felt like a very tuned with it and keep my energy very high. So it was early in the morning. I have a long way to go playing for the dancers, my drums, like leading, instructing people with the yoga practices too. And then so I have to really have a high vibrational energy
Yeah.
to share with people.
Yeah.
And I found Uyayi, and then I started to add the retentions in breath. And then out breath retention when Uddiyana Bandha started to be more experimental.
Mm. Yeah.
And somehow, I would say we was sharing in Caracas because some instructors was traveling to New York, to India, and different locations. See, and we was exchanging basically, and then try to do it in our own because most of the students just wanna do the workout with asana. So basically, the instructor have to figure out your own way.
Yeah. That's so cool.
And
That's a, yeah, that's
but
awesome. To bring attention to that is so amazing to think like what you're saying in terms of yoga 30 years ago. And then like you're explaining what it was like to grow up in Venezuela with maybe not exposure to uh, a lot of information and the evolution of information availability over the last 30 years and now what we have access to in relation to online and just the fact that the culture has been kind of propagating and building and growing more and more. I'm curious, do you think that don't you, in some ways, reminisce that stage of not knowing that I could get access to it and the desire to find it? Like, remember that drive to being so excited about yoga, but wondering, like, there's got to be so much more. I wonder how I could find access to more. Can you talk a little bit about how you feel, how awesome or important that was? And is there a way that we could still create that in our current modern situation?
yeah, it sounds to me what you asking me, it's like more the idea of being tuned with tapas, because I think, at least from my perspective, this fire to have more knowledge, to do the practice, to discover new ways, because when you have certain amount of knowledge, also become the curiosity, how can I mix this, how can this make me better as a person, can improve my own practice. And I think that, I always like to put back Dharma in place, because I love his phrases and the experience he had. And he say always back in time like that, only the children will enter the kingdom of God. But in his words is the childish curiosity. When you see a child, 1 year, 2 years, they are so excited. Everything is new. Oh, how can I switch the light on? So how can I switch the light off? Oh, how can I eat with my right hand and get messy? Oh, how can I throw away plates away? And then somehow that curiosity of a child, in my opinion, many lose it because we start to perceive we are the knowledgeable ones and create some kind of mastery, which, in my opinion, a master probably like my father with martial arts, he was committed with martial arts over 65 years. He was a master, a real, like very strong master, like Dharma, over 55, 60 years sharing. That's when we really can say, okay, I have a mastery. But in the meantime, be like a child. I think that's important.
Mm,
And I think maybe our education system, I don't know, the society, it's like somehow like taking away this childish feeling because we have to be too serious. And you can see when you start to travel, like some places, because especially because I come from Venezuela. Venezuela is a place that you celebrate. You play drums in the street. In the carnival now, people was dancing on the street, even if, a lot of stuff is happening on the country. See, the people play drums and then stay all night, celebrating. We come from that culture, but when you encounter other cultures, like for example, European are so serious, or Asian at some point, like it's hard for Venezuelans to see people so serious,
mm,
right?
mm. Yeah.
And I think somehow this is what happened in our like adult process. We stop being connected with this child within us. And I think that's something that I will definitely will say is important to be tuned. If you're drawing just 5 minutes a day, or you have an instrument, play an instrument, or if you have poetry, or if you have mantras, or you like to sing something that keep us connected with the right side of the brain. Like even pranayams like Brahmari, see these kind of things that really when you finish you connect with this right side. I think this is important because somehow it feels like the right side of the brain, we are so intellectual, so efficient in the if like how can I say, multitasking intellectual things, that the right side become mushy. It's no
Mhm.
longer
Yeah.
strong
Yeah.
as the left side of the brain.
Yeah. Good point,
but
Yoshio.
but yeah, I think it's also, in my opinion, we as an instructors, we cannot teach people passion.
That's a good point. That's a difficult thing to convey, isn't it? Because you can be as passionate as the most passionate, but will that move through? That's a good point.
So you cannot lead the way or give people steps to be passionate about something. You can lead by example, because your frequency, when I play my drums, I'm there, I'm present. So whoever is receptive, boom, get a hit, with that vibration. Same when I'm doing my asana practice, breathing or leading it, people feel the passions. Whoever is ready, get a hit and then get motivated. But probably it may happen, some others are not receptive, they are completely blocked in their inner world, and that's also fine. They are not ready for that impact.
Yeah.
But I think passion is something important. Like, for example, Japanese people talk about ikigai. And, my father was Japanese. And, he always talks about this a purpose of life. That's what keep you passionate, keep you connected with the passion. You have your purpose, whatever it is. You want to be a carpenter. You want to be a musician. See, yeah, like whatever, a writer, or like I don't know, welding. But you have purpose, and that's what wake you up and then make you search for more, to
Yeah.
be curious, to be better,
Yeah.
to improve what you're doing.
Yeah. Good point, Yoshio. Oh, I love your enthusiasm. I can feel it. You're getting me all fired up too. I'm really curious because I enjoy playing drums as well, and I'm so excited to hear how much you appreciate rhythm. Growing up in Venezuela, you're obviously close to Brazil, where capoeira is a real popular form. And what I love about capoeira is that the music is kind of driving the dance or the martial art, and then maybe
Yeah.
the martial art, it might be driving some of the rhythm. And I remember one time practicing with Dharma, he was here in Fort Lauderdale, and I had a chance to go. It was like a yoga journal conference, and it was the first time I got a chance to meet him, and I was blown away by the part of the practice where everybody made a circle and people started clapping and creating a little bit of rhythm, and then one person would go in the middle of the room and do some type of something. And I remember feeling this like nervousness because I wanted to go in there, but I was nervous because I
Yeah.
didn't know if I wanted to. And so in that experience of going in the middle and just doing something and having people watch does something that's so powerful. And then I also want to juxtaposition that off of the idea of solitary practice where there are no eyes, there's no camera, and doing something that is not, I'm not doing it because I'm feeling the recognition of other individuals. Can you talk a little bit about this experience of being in a community versus solitary personal experience?
Yeah, that's a great point because in this case, we have to think about Ishvana Pranidhana. And that, quite often people ask me, what do you think about what's Dharma yoga? Yeah, and this is something that I want to share here because, I'm surprised in Europe, a lot of people don't know Dharma yoga. And then I say, okay, now I will try to make the work to make it more. And when people ask me, what is Dharma yoga? Ahimsa, Ishvana Pranidhana. Forget about the sequence, the poses. But going back to the point, Ishvana Pranidhana, you do everything as an act of offering. It can be in solitude, it can be in front of thousands of hundreds of people, but you do it with the same love. Now, I understand your point about nervousness because if you haven't been able or have the chance to step in the front of an audience, that become very challenged. And I remember, even though as an artist, I did expositions of sculpture and I have to talk. I also play music in front of hundreds of people in theaters in the street. See? Also, I did martial art exhibitions, for the Japan embassy and people, multitudes come to watch. But even though when I was doing the Mahasana with Dharma and then people was clapping, I feel that the energy was so powerful that my entire body was shaking. So, and then when I first stand, I felt like, I was in a like a earthquake.
Yeah.
The entire one was moving. So I have to was very careful about. You know, I mentioned this because in the beginning I thought, why I'm nervous? I have been playing in front of people, talking. Why I have to be nervous here? Even in front of, for example, in yoga conference, I have been doing demonstrations in front of hundreds of people. But it was something, then the realization come, yeah, it's the energy, the Shakti. That people are so devoted here in the Dharma Yoga community that this, like around this circle, yeah, going back to the point of capoeira, this is called roda, the roda of capoeira. See, the berimbau play, the pandeiro, the atabaque, and then, the chanting start. See, and that, I think that when it comes to Dharma, the idea to do the roda in the yoga class. This is my assumption. Maybe it's
Yeah.
wrong,
Yeah.
but I'm
I love it.
95% sure that
Yeah.
this comes from there.
Yeah.
Because Dharma is a part of that culture. And you can
Yeah.
see a
Ah,
small roda of
that
10.
makes, I never made that connection, Yoshio. That makes perfect
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, because I practice capoeira too in Venezuela.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, Venezuela is close to Brazil, so a lot of masters, see, from Brazil came and visit, and I did capoeira de Angola, which is the more traditional.
Mm,
See, it's lower, it's smaller, and then regional, which is brincadeira. See, a lot of figures and stuff, and a lot of excitement. And it
mm.
was interesting to see both the energy how move in each role. One is more intimate. See, we are hiding. They cannot see us because we are working out to create liberation mentally and physically. We wanna stay away from slavery. And the other is celebrating. Oh, now we are free.
Oh, it's so cool, Yoshio.
Understand?
Yeah.
So the energy definitely is completely different, but the intention is the same because it's a celebration, it's a training for mental and physical like liberation. And somehow, see, when we talk about mukta, see, we want to become free. And it's a system of liberation. It's somehow is a yoga system
Yeah.
that people in South America, Afro American descendants, find their way to liberate themselves.
Yes.
Mental place, even if they was trapped in a very closed space, and also in a physical way because help them to fight. That's what the story says. I don't know because I was not there.
Yeah. I know, Yoshio, but that's awesome, man. I love hearing it from your perspective because that makes a lot of sense. I like the idea that even if we were put on a desert island with no access to any other information and we were seeking liberation, we would potentially be able to tap into a way to generate a feeling of liberation. And it's fascinating to see how you're drawing the connection between the way yoga seeks and sought and seeks liberation, and then through music and dance and art in different traditions. But it's really kind of the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and I always being involved with martial arts way before yoga, and have a father that always talks about these things. It's a liberation systems. Self-defense is also is a way to liberate yourself because you have to be honest who you really are, and then whoever is trying to like invade with not a great like intentions, you defend yourself. Could be by words, could be by just walking away, or could be by physically fighting. But it's a liberation system too. And then, for example, in the Shorinji Kempo that I studied with my father, this the Zen monks' philosophy is the root, and it's very similar than Yamas and the Yamas.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
you put in place all these spirituals, we will say spiritual traditions, see, they seek same thing. And going back to Dharma's words, different roads, same destination,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yes, Yoshio. I'm so curious. I love hearing, I mean, fascinating to think about the fact you're growing up with a Japanese father who's a martial arts master, and you go to Japan and end up demonstrating in Japan as well. So you had that influence from childhood. Where is that correct? Am I understanding correctly that you did? Did you say that you went back to Japan with your dad?
Yeah, I went to Japan few times, and studied there, but demonstrations of martial arts was always in Venezuela.
Got it. Got it.
You know, in Japan, you have almost the entire population do it. It's like I go to
Yeah.
India.
It's yeah.
In Venezuela, martial arts in the 70s was not really popular, and that was when my father arrived.
Yeah.
So he established one of the first like a dojos of martial arts in Venezuela. And
Uh,
then the embassy of Japan also was very interested to share like in a Japanese week, and then they do a cultural event for a week. So martial arts, drumming, dancing, art, and all kind of calligraphy. They share and call the specialists living in Venezuela to do demonstrations. And that's why I end up doing demonstrations
mm,
in Venezuela every single year. We prepare a performance of fighting with weapons, with fists and hands and kickings, and some many other like disciplines too. See? But I went to Japan also to study drumming. And because my father was living in Japan, so I took the chance way, way later, like to visit Japan. And that was a great, great, great experience. See? But the most important for me was see physically the earth, the soil in Japan. You can sense like they are pursuing something a little bit different, very respectful, very spiritual, insightful. Venezuela, you say whatever you want, you celebrate, you like party, you drum, you screaming.
yes. Yes.
End of those. That was something very interesting for me.
That's so cool, Yoshio. That's so what is your feeling and thoughts then on the style of drumming and or spiritual culture, Nyabingi? Like in Jamaica and Rasta culture, the drum can be used as a way to create a powerful, I don't know how to explain it, like a spiritual, just a very
Advanced.
meditative, almost like a mantra drumming. Like the
Yeah.
drumming can be very
Yeah.
has this feeling. Can you talk a little bit about
Yeah.
because you I feel like I really love like how you're saying how the drum can create this like celebration feeling and expression through that realm. And how can drumming be used as a way to pull consciousness into some sort of deep space? Or I guess it's all or it's all the same, but I'm just curious to hear what you think.
Yeah, it's interesting because you mentioned Ayabingi, and then, back in time, I went to Jamaica to study specifically Nyabingi.
Yeah, no way. You did? That's crazy. So you're going to Japan to study Japanese drumming.
Yes.
You,
I, at that
and
time,
now you're in Jam
I was into like really study different cultures, and then born in the Caribbean, and of course, I was playing a reggae band, having dreadlocks all the way below my knees, and get very involved with Rastafarian culture.
Yeah, Yoshio.
Even though if directly do not belong to Venezuela, but we was very influenced. And I have the lucky time to meet the group Mystic Revealers. And then so I went to their place and they bring me to the Bobo camp, the Bobo Ashanti, which is the Orthodox Rastafarian people. And then, the way they play Nayabing is so slow. Boom, 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 boom. And it's a four inside. One, two, three, four. One, two, three. And then the bombo, boom, boom. And that's how you wake up at 6 a.m. every single day. In the
Wow.
Bible camp, you listen the boom, 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 boom. and then the funde and the repeat start. Boom, boom, da, boom, boom. So it's a heartbeat reminding you connect with your heart. And then, as we have been trained somehow in the Western society, like, oh no, the heart is a pump. No, the heart is a vortex that host frequency and bring frequencies. So when you connect with your heart, then you tune into a frequency.
Mhm.
And it's very interesting because when I arrived to Jamaica, I guess it was a little late because the founders of these movements of Rasta and Boa Shanti already died. But the foundation was interesting and it was when I started to resonate with vegetarianism and then fruitarianism. And then their diet basically is on fruits. They will not touch anything that is growing close to the earth. It have to be an offering. And then I resonate a lot because it's a himsa. The fruit, the plant, the earth, the universe creates something perfect that then is pending and do not cause any harm. And then when it's ripe, pop, fall. Or you can just twist it and just get into your hand without creating any harming and have a frequency, have an aura, have colors. It's full of electricity that when you eat this thing, you just get a boost of energy. Let's do more. But
Yes,
and
Yoshio.
that was a realization like, wow, these guys are in a different level. Of course, you see, the ones that are corrupted, they was asking me when we come out of the Bobo World camp, oh, can you buy me fish? Can you give me some beer or a cigarette? And I said, well, but these guys, what are you talking about? And I started to realize, okay, this is already corrupted. But the foundation you say, okay, this comes from a deeper realization, understanding to self-realization for the human to enter in a different frequency. And, the point of Nyabingi, this is, the main thing on the celebration. You have to go to the tabernacle at 6 and then clap and chant. And there is a priest reading, all the psalms and chanting and people getting excited. And then again at 6 p.m., when the sun is going down, again, everyone sharing there. It's one of the few times during the day that in this kind of community, males, women, and children get together in the same place
Mm.
because it's important to gather with the same heartbeat, with the same frequency, then to do the work or then to go to sleep. But
Yes.
yeah, I
It's
definitely,
fascinating. It's so cool, man. I'm so excited to hear and meet somebody that went and did this, that you got a chance to go and participate in that. That is so amazing.
yeah, it was, I'm very grateful because I have this somehow like, I would say, callings from the universe that I was asking to do something, and somehow the right people show up. And I was able to travel, and then start to physically present their sense, and perceive this kind of like folklore or traditions and be a part of it. And it's very interesting because just want to mention this when this idea of the fruitarianism present to me, I was not fruitarian. I was in the process to become vegetarian. See? And I was very into because the Rastafarian culture, even without going to Jamaica yet, they pushed the vegetarianism at least.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
was very interesting because I was really working hard to get it done. But in Venezuela was hard. The first few years was hard. The culture is involved with cheese and fish and many other things. See?
Yes. Yes.
You
Understood.
hear me well
Yeah.
because there is a lot of contraction now.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Oh,
Is a
it's totally fine. It's totally I don't hear construction. No,
Okay,
no,
good.
yeah.
I'm just wanna because now I become very loud. But these start to resonate a lot. And then, but that time when I started to do yoga as well, the instructor that I was, going to, she used to eat a lot of fruit. And then she introduced me to that what we call in America intermediate fast. So I started to stop eating in the morning and then do breakfast, breaking the fast in the afternoon.
Yeah. Yes.
And that was also combined with pranayama, boom, like a skyrocket, like in the practice.
Yes.
Let the body rest the entire morning and train with that full energy. And then after, eat only fruits instead of rice or beans or any other thing that was very heavy, that basically you have to sit and take a nap, take fruit, and then boo, continue during the day. And then again, not eating too late and let the body rest. That was something that skyrocketed the asana practice and many other, like for example, the kumbhakas and also the meditation. Like start to feel lightness on meditation, very focused, bright lights and stuff like that. And it was very, very interesting. And I take the chance to mention this here because I know a lot of people don't believe in this, and we have this myth of the protein, you have to eat this. But in reality, the fruits have all the amino acids and some greens too that people are looking for so much in animal products and dairies and eggs that you can access direct to the fountain, which is fruits and some greens and of course seeds. And I think that make a huge difference how we perceive reality and how we tune our frequency and commit with our practice and with our interaction with the external world.
Yes, Yoshio. Yes. Oh man. You know, I feel like I'm still enamored with the realization that you mentioned we look at the heart like a pump, but in reality it's more like a vortex. And instead of just feeling like heart's just like pump, pump, but the way that just that idea of more almost like there's more of a rhythm to it. Not just,
Yeah.
I mean, or that there's a complexity of rhythm to it. You know, it's, and to even start thinking about trying to tap into feeling that. And,
Yeah,
and, and,
it's
and
interesting because when you see some scientists, they put in some kind of frequencies, the salt in a platform, and then the salt itself starts to vibrate and then create a mandalas, and jantras. And that's not random, they're ancient civilizations. If we talk about Tartarian, the Atlantis, or like Anunnakis, or the pyramids, the Egyptians, there are many, many, many like civilizations way before us that they already know all of this. And that's why music is always the universal language that tune up us into a higher frequency. And you see, when you play, going back to the rhythm, when you play different rhythms, when you play in four, when you play in six, when you play in three, you're tapping into a different frequencies, different state of consciousness. But at the end, if you tap into that frequency and you hold into that frequency, you enter in a state of trance
mm,
where time is no longer existing.
yes.
When many times I was playing Ayabingi in Venezuela by the river on the mountain. We start at night. The fire, the water, the moon was there, the earth, almost all the elements there, the metal on the ring of the drum, the wood on the drum, the skin. And then somehow you close your eyes and you enter in trance, and then boom, when you open eyes again, it was daylight.
Yes.
So the sense of time disappear because you enter in a state of trance. And could be 5 minutes, could be 5 hours without notice. it looks the same because you tune into that frequency. And I think that's a power thing, at least that we still preserve with music in this area of the humankind. And somehow I feel like always musicians are, you're a musician, you are lazy, you are like a hippie. No, musicians always having a very important role in the society because we tune into a higher frequency. We memorize the higher frequency, and then with our instruments, we're going back to that frequency and tune ourselves, our mind, our body into the same place, and then help others to tune to that frequency.
Yes.
Now, the problem is all the noises, the mental noises, the people around, the judgmental mind that do not allow easy to tune into that frequency. But I think I found fascinating because now people start to understand, and that's why the singing gongs or the singing bowls, the bath of gongs become very popular because these people are returning to these technologies.
Yes.
Like it is normal. Like we need something that vibrates when we are in a lower vibration to tune back. And then it's I play my string and then okay, let's play major or minor again. Then I hit my string and then you have another instrument and you try to tune up the instrument, and then we are in the same place to play a song.
Yeah, good
And
point.
I think because Dharma always say tune your mind with a higher mind. Yeah. When you find someone that have a very high frequency, just we should stay with that person. And that's why I stay with Dharma for a long time because it was needed. Now he's my heart. For many reasons, family reasons, I have to leave. See? But he's in my heart and I have that tuning, that frequency always here. It's same high with Naya Bingi. Even if I don't play Naya Bingi for like months or years, if you ask me to play Nayavingi, I just push the button and I will play it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. That is awesome, Yoshi. I'm so excited to meet somebody as passionate about all this stuff as you. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I'm stoked that you've been able to blend so many different facets, and I can really feel that like ever since you were a kid, you were just like really wanting to, that tapas was burning, at a young age, and that just caused you to want to go and study this and learn over here and explore and not put boundaries up. Like I can do martial arts and it's okay to now do yoga and I can explore my diet and let me try all these different aspects is and I think that's what's so fascinating and I agree. I feel like we're in this time period where these energies are waking up a little bit more and we're a little more fascinated by it now and maybe because the external drama noise is so loud right now. It's almost like there was chatter before, but now the external drama noise is so seemingly loud that we need
Yeah.
to be able to tune our frequency into a vibration that's a little more harmonious. And it doesn't seem to be all that difficult, really. It's not as hard as maybe we think it might be. It's a funny thing because I remember feeling so like kind of stressed out and well, I mean I still get really stressed out to be honest, but I
We're all
but I feel like now I know I can just go into a quiet space in my own mind and breath and body and it can switch really fast. It doesn't have to take 20 minutes or a whole 10-day meditation retreat or we can put these ideas that I have to go for a long time or I have to be really extreme when I do this or I have to hold my breath longer or I have to and I feel like that transition of going like I have to do all these things more is getting easier because it almost is better if it's less in a way. Does that like juxtaposition make sense? Does that sound
Yeah, I think, somehow when we tune into different frequencies, or in this case, the sadhana, because for us, sadhana, it's a very important like a word, it's practice. It doesn't matter what kind of practice, but it becomes like a button. Like you push the button, poof, the light turns. The speed of a light, it's like just a fraction of a second. And I think that comes somehow because also you have been practicing for a long period of time. So then we have access to tune into the frequency almost immediately in an instant because we did it. But probably, for some others, it's not that like easy because the practice needs to be done for a more long period of time. See? But what you say that sometimes less, I agree, because the circumstances do not allow you. And then even if you do less, you
Yeah.
feel okay, I'm gone, I'm done, right? Because you know, that's it, it's over. See, responsibilities, family work, or because you go so deep into something that again the trance take place, the infinite space take place, that there is no time, and you lose consciousness of time, and then poof, you get what you need without the need to be entrapped in what we call time in the earth plane, because in the spiritual realm this is not do not exist. So somehow, I guess, I'm not want to say I'm the specialist or all this matters, but that's what I perceive. We have the ability to let go the connection with the physicality, the mental space, and then tap or being established in the higher self, in the spiritual realm, and then boom, the right frequency, the right information, it go to our instrument, and then we can continue.
Oh man, beautifully said, Yoshio. Well done. Well done.
Yeah, it's funny because now that I mentioned this, I was trying to find a different spot because, I was trying to, you know, find a better place with more light, but the situation didn't allow me. I reached here. It's a place that I'm borrowing, no, and then I didn't have my laptop charged. And the perfect place that I found, I couldn't charge the laptop, and it was completely out of battery. So I have to change plan. But the battery takes longer. And for this program, at least I have to have more than half of the battery. And I say, oh no, I want a better place with, you know, and then I have to shift that frequency. Say, okay, it doesn't matter. Let's go, whatever. Where is a plug? I plug and I say, okay, at least I have a wide wall, and then I sit here.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yoshio.
It's,
Yes.
it's interesting because the device also sometimes need the plug, and it takes time and have a specific moment to do it. But going back to the point of the practices, it seems to be that we have now sometimes the ability to push that bottom,
Yeah. Yeah.
then get away from the idea of time and be able to tune our frequency very fast.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what happened. Some people, some cultures talk about like, people travel on time.
Yeah. Great point. The like if
But
we
I don't know.
the, the
I'm not, again, I'm not saying I travel on time. I'm out of this, but it makes sense.
It makes sense. I remember I moved to Australia when I was 20 and I was fascinated by the Aboriginal culture in Australia. And when I first heard that they had the ability to swing, so a piece of string with an object on the end and spin it really fast, like twirling like a lasso above the head really fast, and it would make a sound where they could create this kind of conversation. They could communicate and send this sound from one area over to another village area, and they could hear that, and they would then make the sound, and they could actually communicate across the entire continent through traveling sound vibration. And when I first heard that concept, I was like, whoa, that's like cell phone, right? Like,
Yeah.
so I think now we're like thinking like our communication through vibration can only be done via this method, and which I'm so grateful for because I get to talk to you. You're in Germany and I'm here in Florida, and we can communicate and have like a very easy connection, right? Like, or very the ability for us to do it is like very easy. I can see you, you can see, I can hear you. But
Yeah.
this idea to say time travel, where through the astral plane slash in a meditative trance state, that there is no time and we can go anywhere we want to go and communicate. And um, I just find this is really interesting because the more technology seems to lasso us into its realm, I think it's almost more important now that because we understand the concept that it is possible to communicate via a little device, that we should potentially maybe put those down for a little bit every now and again and practice trying to communicate. Like, even if tonight, if I can, envision Yoshio and just give a little prayer, thank you, Yoshio, that was so fun today. Maybe you might feel it, you know what I mean? Or who knows how that vibration will pass through the ether. So I agree with you. And I think we're in a time space where it's important that we still try to connect to some of the traditional methods of communicating, even though I'm still going to use all this technology. Why not? I mean, it's no problem.
Yeah, I think like the technologies is a tool. How we use it is the little difference. And for example, I would think about one of the greatest lessons in martial arts with my father. He say he have a cool knife, a Japanese knife, very sharp. He always make it sharper. It's almost like a small katana. And he say, what is important in martial arts? You have all the techniques, all the knowledge. See? You can kill or you can heal someone with the same points. Now, who is behind the knife? That's a little different. If a child hold a knife, don't know anything, cannot coordinate the hand, end up cutting himself or cutting someone else. Yeah. If, like, how can I say, a rude boy, someone without moral and ethical conducts, like happen in many of the third world countries, people don't have education, hungry, don't have a job, they have to use a knife to rob. They don't have any other choice. They don't know how to perform a job. And when you understand this, it's not that excuse them, but okay, this is also a tool to be used. If you give it to a nice carpenter or a sushi man, they will do a nice sculpture, a nice plate of food, almost like an art, like an exhibition, but it's the same knife. And I think that's what happened with the tools now. We have to be very careful with our, foundation. In the case of yoga, yamas and niyamas, right? And be established in the yamas and niyamas and be very aware how we are using the tools. So if we are helping people, for sure. But in the moment we create discomfort or hurt people, that's when we have to observe and restrict it a little bit more.
Yes,
And
Yoshio.
the idea of the collective consciousness, I love that idea because Dharma love it. Move like a school of fish, all together. And then if you go to the, Tartarian times, how these like so-called churches or I don't know, like these kind of very beautiful cathedrals, like very advanced technology buildings, it was built in different countries with, I don't know, artists, architects, genius, I don't know how to call them, but they was present all over the world. And you see the same phenomenon happen with music. People that never meet before, even in the art, find art, never meet before, and then poof, they are going through the same collective consciousness and they create. They give a message with the same like frequency because they tune their mind without knowing each other physically. They perceive that message and then they use the instrument to give the message. And that's for me is fascinating too. Like, how can we also understand these kind of devices, the computer, the phone, but also how we use our psychic abilities to create and also to tune ourselves with others, and then, you know, share and give messages, not because we are the chosen one, because everyone is chose by the divine. It's just because we share and then somehow we help each other by sharing. But yeah, definitely, it's that always resonate with me also as an instructor, how much, you know, you can share because the knife will be the knife, but who is holding the knife, then that's when you have to be careful how much you share.
Yeah. That was that was a really good analogy, Yoshio. That really was perfect. Oh man, I can't tell you how grateful I am to have this opportunity to meet you, and I can't wait to hopefully meet you in person. But at the same time, I feel so satisfied and grateful and thankful for this for what I've been able to achieve with you here, and to have this introduction. Thank you, Andrew, for making this happen. And
I sorry to interrupt. I also have a chance to say thank you to Andrew. He's a very, very great brother.
oh man, I know
Uh,
I loved it when we were communicating prior. You said, "Look, I love Andrew, and if he introduces us, and I'm ready to go. Let's do it." So,
yeah, this is in the Dharma community. I would say this is my greatest brother. I would say.
no,
And without saying that the other part of the community, I love all of them, but
yes,
we have the chance to tune up together as we talk about the collective conscious. Sometimes Andrew and me, we was practicing in the same room, for over 2 hours. And you see, he was sitting, doing pranayama, psychic development, completely still. And I was moving for 2 hours, bah, bah, legs behind the head, kapotasana, twist, leg handstand, We was completely doing physically something different. With the camera, you would say, wow, these two guys are doing in the same room. But our mind was tuned, and then it was funny because we have the picture of Dharma and Yogi Gupta in front. So we was also practicing with the gurus.
yeah, yes,
And that's when we start to have again such a nice like communication. Sometimes we even didn't talk. We just tune our frequencies in the same square, practicing what he needs, what I need, and then poof, exit, and that's it.
yes, Yoshio.
But that create a so great connection. And this is, I think, something very important. And I take the chance because I know a lot of people struggle, and I see now in Germany, people are very cold and not really nice comparing with how we are in the tropic, for example, the hospitality, the sense of humor. Also, I guess the sun make a difference. But the yoga community, for those who are listening this program, is so important. No matter what school is, just find a community that make you feel great. And I'm pretty sure, I take the chance too because I know you run a studio. Like I'm pretty sure you do a great work. And this is I always respect all of you that have a yoga studio because you create a space for people like a spiritual home that many people don't have the skills to create a spiritual home in their own home. And then somehow the yoga studios, the community create a space where you feel family, you feel supported, and then you can continue on your journey with a lot of support, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And I think that's, a great thing that I found, like in the sangha. Like when we find the right sangha, we should always stick, because this is always needed on the beginning. Then you can walk along, and sometimes it's better to be alone. I find like a, like okay, now I find I am alone. You know, you understand? But
Well, that's the beauty of show. Stoke in the community and so happy alone, right? So
yes,
grateful in my family, so happy to be just floating in the ocean,
yeah,
or wherever I know, Yoshio. Well, well, thank you, man. I can't wait to charge through today. I'm feeling like I can't wait to see what happens here with all this good energy.
good, good. Yeah, I'm sorry. We have been talking about different things.
No, it's good. I like it. I think that's the
Specific
beauty.
yoga.
Yeah.
But for the audience, I think yoga is unification.
Yeah.
It's art, it's science. So everything related with art, science, and unification is yoga.
Yes.
And that's why we open and host the space for all of these things.
Yes, Yoshio. Well, man, thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure,
I can't
Todd.
wait till the next time. Thank you
Yes.
so much. Thank you.
So all my love, respect to you, your family, the people who are listening to this, and then please keep practicing and stay with the fire lit. That's what I may say.
Thank you, Yoshio.
So, namaskar, my friend.
Namaskar.